When I saw this hutch at my local thrift store, I immediately started thinking about how I could paint it. Hi, I'm Liberty. Welcome to Before and Afters at Century Farms. This is my current hutch, which was a little bit too small for my space. It only took me a few minutes to decide which color scheme I would use before I decided to buy this hutch. I knew that I wanted to do a gray wash on the lower part, and later I saw this hutch for sale at our local Amish market. I was so glad that I already had a hutch to paint of my own when I saw the sticker price. I don't know about you, but $6,000 is a little bit out of my price range. And that is one of the biggest reasons that motivates me to paint my own furniture. So let's get started. You will be tempted to skip this first step, but trust me, don't give in to that temptation, and you will be so glad later on when it's easy to put it back together. I started this project in early May and it was chilly, so you can see that I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but towards the end, I am talking about how hot it is, so it was nearly a month later that I finished due to some unavoidable delays. So I had this box, very convenient, and I just drew on it to mark where I'm going to put my hinges so that it's really easy to put them back on my hutch. The paint manufacturer recommends that you clean before you sand. You might be tempted to sand first and then clean, but if you do that, you run the risk of, while you're sanding, pushing the oils and dirt into the wood. I realized it was a little different on this corner. At first I thought some of the finish had worn off, but actually it's just really dirty because that's where they always pushed it closed. So when I clean it with TSP, I need to make sure I get that off of that corner. So don't risk pushing the dirt further into the wood. Always make sure you clean before you sand. Then you need to sand your piece to get it ready. So this sanding block is one of my favorite tools. So is this little detail sander. It's always handy to have. This one comes apart so you can put different roughness of sandpaper pieces on it. So this does a pretty good job. I don't need to sand this too much because I'm putting the hardware back on it. This is a rubber block that lets you put in regular sandpaper. So Black Dog Salvage furniture paint would stick whether I sanded or not. I just wanted a very smooth finish when I was done, so that's why I'm making sure it's very smooth. So I just keep feeling it as I sand to see if I like how it feels. And if not, I'll just sand a little more. These places might be where I would want to use this detail sander. Especially on the doors. I might want to get in these grooves and look at just fits. So I'll keep working on that. I remembered to wash that spot on this drawer and it's all clean now. My plan is to make Silver Lab using galvanized, dirt, and black dog. There are so many combinations of colors you can make with these recipes. After I make this color, I'm going to mix it with some water to make a wash. So, my recipe calls for 1 part black dog. So, I've already stirred up the paint, and I'm using a 1/4 measuring cup. I'm not going to fill it quite full because I don't think I'll need that much. So 1 part black dog, then 2 parts dirt. This is a lovely brown. I think it kind of looks like chocolate. And then 3 parts galvanized. So almost a cup of gray. 1, kind of messy. 2, and 3. And the nice thing is, I can always add a little more to get just the right shade that I want. So now I'll stir this up. See if I can get just the right shade of warm gray that I'm going for. Doesn't that look nice? That looks good. I'm going to tell you a funny story on the blog of how I lost this brown color. I had to order a new one. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I don't know what I did with it. And I tried to make a color without it, and I just could not. I tried really hard and I couldn't. So before I add the water, I'm going to actually take this in my house and see how it looks next to my curtains and everything. This gray has turned out so nice, called Silver Lab. If you want a gray that's not blue, it's not green, it's just a nice gray. This video does not do it justice. It is videoing lighter than it really is. I wish you could see what I'm seeing. It's actually a darker medium gray. So nice looking. I checked my color to make sure it was the color I wanted. Now I'm going to add water to make it a wash. My container's already about half full. When you're adding water, make sure that you only use distilled water. Even though I've added so much water, it's still really pigmented. I'm going to try 2 different methods. I'm going to try brushing it on, and I'm going to try wiping it on the door. So you can see what you think of these 2 methods. It's a good idea to keep stirring it up. It's since it has water added to it, it does tend to settle a lot. So I do want the brown to show through. So it's really nice when a friend gives you lots of rags to use. Isn't that nice? It looks really good. Just wipe a little more off. Now I could dab some water on here to smooth it out some more. Kind of like how it was. Just got to keep working with it. You might like that, but I think I want more gray on there again. This method of adding paint and wiping it off, it only works with furniture paint like Black Dog Salvage. It's not going to work with regular wall paint that will get really messy and yucky if you try to wipe it off and use this method. It can be a little aggravating. It's helpful if you make sure your rag has a smooth texture and does not have any seams in it. Alright, now let's see what happens if I just dab it on with the rag to begin with. Start with my rag. Just rub it on. Maybe I'll have more control of how it looks. I actually like that a lot. Instead of rubbing it off, I'm rubbing it on. That's turning out really nice. You do still want to go with the direction of the wood, how you want it to look. That looks really good. Well, either way will work. Rub it on or rub it off. I think I need a little more paint here. This was just my second time in using a wash on a piece of furniture, and what I eventually realized is that I couldn't get the look I wanted with just one coat. So eventually I just had to leave it sit and went back and did everything again with a second wash coat just to get the look that I was going for. If you're a perfectionist, just try to remember that hand painted means there are going to be variations and it is going to look a little different in different spots, and that's okay. That's what makes it look so nice in the end. At first I was going to try to keep track and see how long it took me to paint this hutch, and then I forgot all about that. So I really have no idea how long this took me altogether. If I had to guess, I would say that it took at least a 40-hour week, maybe more, maybe less. And if you ever do end up paying a lot for a piece of furniture that someone else made, you can know that it was worth it. By the time I finished the bottom and the top of this piece, I understood why the one at the Amish market cost $6,000. That cost included building the hutch from scratch, and I didn't even have to build mine. I was just painting it. So I wanted you to see the gray washed drawers compared to ones that have not been done yet. These drawers belong to the top, and I'm actually going to do something different on the top part of the hutch. And also, it does not have the clear coat finish on yet, and it will look different after I do that. It's still a chalky feel, but I'm going to put a satin finish on it. So, just wanted you to see that. I'm still going to touch this up, make sure it looks how I want it to look. For this whole piece, I have gone over everything a second time, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing that on this drawer. I put the drawers in order so that I can see how they're going to look on the piece, and I want to show you how I'm going to do this. So I've stirred up my thinned out paint wash. I'm just going to paint it on here. Maybe let it dry for a second, hardly at all, and then just carefully wipe it off again. You don't want seams in your rag or anything. You want smooth, as smooth as you can. If it dries too fast and you can't wipe it off fast enough, dip your brush in water and go over it again with water, and then it'll wipe right off. Or you can also put a little water on your rag when you're wiping it off. So I put the drawers in and I clipped the doors on. I didn't put the hinges on. I just kind of snapped them in there so that I could see how they looked. And I do not have the clear coat on yet, but I really like how this is turning out with this wash. By putting the doors on, I saw a couple places I missed, and I've already gone in and fixed those. So after this dries some more, I will put the clear coat on. 2 or 3 coats of it. I'm getting ready to use Black Dog Salvage Guard Dog Top Coat on my hutch. I am finishing the bottom section first before I start the top section. And this is what I'm using to seal the paint. I think I know what the finish is going to look like, but just to be safe and to be sure, I took one of my doors and I painted a little bit on the inside where it's not going to be seen. And I'm going to test the clear coat on top of that before I paint it everywhere else. I'm going to take the rest of the doors off before I do it, of course. But let me do this test piece and show you what it's going to look like. This is going to give it such a smooth, professional finish. And I'm going to link all the details in the description below this video and in a blog post Be sure to watch the video and read the blog post because I always put different information in them. So, I know you can't feel this, but it looks so nice. It doesn't change the color much, if any. Sometimes the colors really change when you put that clear coat on. But I will put at least 2, maybe 3 of these coats on. I want to show you real quickly the difference between the clear coated ones. There's 2 on the left, and then this one is not clear coated yet. So the clear coat is still wet and it will dry, but it will be just really soft and not glossy, just a little bit of a shine with satin, and it will look so nice. So that's the difference. From the beginning, my plan was to reuse the original hardware. If I had not done that, I would have had to work a lot harder to cover the old holes and repair where the old hardware was. So I'm really glad I made the choice I did. I think it's turning out great. The bottom part of the hutch is pretty light, and my daughter and I used shoulder harnesses to bring it up the steps and into the house. Attaching the hardware is one of my favorite steps, and probably the reason for this is because it's the last step. And so I know I'm going to get to see really soon the result and the efforts of all my hard work, and I am so excited. I didn't mention this earlier, but I did coat the top with guard dog as well. So here's the bottom part of the hutch all finished. You can see the light pattern from our dining room chandelier on the wall. I can hardly wait to get started on the top part of the hutch and show you how it looks all together.